Hello and welcome. You're watching NewsX Deep Dive with me, Asavri Jindal. For months, the world watched missiles fly across West Asia, and the war has for long spilled beyond Iran's border. Fresh Iranian missiles and drone strikes have targeted American military assets in Kuwait, Bahrain and Jordan, dramatically widening the conflict and raising fresh fears for millions of civilians, including one of the largest overseas Indian communities anywhere in the world. Nearly 1 million Indians live in Kuwait. Around 350,000 Indians call Bahrain home, and nearly 20,000 Indians live and work in Jordan. These are not just expatriates. They are engineers, doctors, construction workers, teachers, small business owners, nurses, and thousands of Indian families who suddenly find themselves living within range of missiles. So tonight we ask, how vulnerable are Indians in these countries? What is India doing to protect them? And if this war expands further, could another missile evacuation operation become inevitable? This is no longer simply a US-Iran confrontation. Iran says it has struck American military facilities in Kuwait, Bahrain and Jordan in retaliation for continued US attacks inside Iran. Air raid sirens have sounded, missile interceptions have been reported, and Gulf nations have activated emergency protocols as tensions continue to escalate. Why these countries? Because each hosts critical American military infrastructure. Kuwait hosts the Ali Al Salim Air Base and other logistics hubs. Bahrain is home to the US Navy's 5th Fleet, and Jordan hosts American military personnel supporting regional operations. Iran's message is simple. Any country hosting American forces could become part of the battlefield. India's connection to the Gulf isn't just diplomatic, it is a deeply personal one. Millions of Indians live across West Asia, and every year they send home tens and billions of dollars in remittances. They power hospitals, build skyscrapers, operate ports, teach in schools, and keep Gulf economies running. In Kuwait alone, Indians are the country's largest expatriate community. In Bahrain, Indians are one of the biggest foreign workforces. Jordan may have a smaller Indian population, but has become increasingly important for students, professionals, and businesses. A wider war doesn't simply threaten borders, it threatens livelihoods, families, and India's economic interests. So far, most Iranian strikes appear to have focused on military targets, but war rarely stays that precise. Civilian airports can close overnight, airspace restrictions can leave thousands stranded, missile debris can land in residential areas, ports can shut down, supply chains can collapse, and panic often spreads faster than missiles. We've seen this before. Flights are cancelled, essential goods become scarce, communications become difficult, families come back, they're back home, they lose contact. And this is exactly the scenario Indian authorities are trying to prevent. The government of India has been closely monitoring developments. Earlier in the conflict, Indian missions across the Gulf advised nationals to remain vigilant, avoid unnecessary movement, and follow local government instructions. More recently, the Indian embassy in Iran urged Indian nationals to leave the country or postpone travel because of the deteriorating security situation. Indian embassies remain operational and the emergency helplines remain active. Officials are maintaining contact with local authorities. The focus, at least for now, is on preparedness, not panic, because evacuating hundreds of thousands of Indians in an enormous logistical challenge is difficult. India has done it before, whether it was Kuwait in 1990, Lebanon in 2006, Yemen in 2015, Ukraine in 2020 or Sudan in 2023. India has repeatedly demonstrated its ability to bring citizens home from conflict zones. But this crisis is different. Unlike previous evacuations involving tens of thousands, the Gulf hosts millions of Indians. If commercial aviation is disrupted across multiple countries simultaneously, the scale of any evacuation could be unprecedented. This is why preventing escalation remains India's biggest priority. The biggest question now is whether these strikes remain limited or whether the conflict pulls more Gulf nations directly into the war. If American retaliation intensifies, Iran could broaden its targeting. If more airspace closes, travel disruption could worsen. If ports are affected, global trade could suffer. And every new front increases the risk faced by ordinary citizens, including Indians living far from the headlines. For decades, the Gulf has represented opportunity for millions of Indians. Today, it represents uncertainty. The missiles may be aimed at military bases, but every siren echoes through Indian homes, from Manama to Kuwait City, to Amman and to Kochi, Mumbai, Hyderabad, and Lucknow. So, as uncertainty deepens across West Asia, Indian embassies in Kuwait, Bahrain, Jordan, and across the region have become more than diplomatic missions. They are lifelines for anxious citizens, coordinating with local authorities, issuing advisories, maintaining emergency helplines, and preparing for every possible contingency. In a conflict where the situation can change in minutes, reassurance can be just as important as rescue. And for millions of Indians living far from home, Indian embassies carry a promise that India is watching, India is prepared, and India will stand by its citizens, no matter how uncertain the days ahead become. Joining us to take this conversation forward is Ambassador Sushil Singhal, former diplomat who's with us at the moment. So I appreciate you taking out time speaking to us on NewsX. And we've, of course, given a detailed explanation, put out those numbers of those Indians living in Kuwait, the Indians who are living in Jordan, living in Bahrain. The number is not small, and their lives, every day, every minute, like I said, things can take a turn. I want to understand from you, what exactly should India do in this moment? We're, of course, doing as much as we can, given the fact that there's a lot of uncertainty. But what exactly are you making of all of this?
Thank you very much, first of all, inviting me on your show, which is very prominent show. The thing is that, this, as you rightly said, that there are so many uncertainties at this moment. Nobody knows really that what is going to happen next, because the way for last 7-8 days, the escalation is taking place. Daily there are attacks by the both sides. But at the moment, this limited is not, the civilians are not being targeted. So this is a silver line, my view. But how long it will go on, nobody knows, because the way America is, US is increasing its attack, targeting different areas, as the reports are coming yesterday. How long the Iran will exercise S-10, nobody knows. But as far as the government of India is concerned, of course, there is an advisory which has been issued that people should not travel unless really emergency. But as you rightly said, that the millions of Indians are living in these areas. And if, God forbid, the evacuation is required, it will be a nightmarish, arrangement to be done, because the kind of gigantic task it will involve, given the conditions, it will be virtually, next to, I would say, impossible to evacuate everybody in time if this situation deteriorates. That's why the government of India has always been in favor of dialogue.
Right, absolutely. I do want to understand from you, given how precarious the situation is, every day there's something new happening. It usually takes a bad turn each and every day. In a situation that is escalating day by day, what should Indians do? Should they perhaps leave the Middle East?
Well, at the moment, I would not say that they should start leaving, but they should play safe and restricts their movement. But I don't think the situation warrants a panic at this moment. But keep a close eye on the happening, which is what's happening around. But it's not a situation where they need to leave the country wherever they are, but exercise caution. I think that is most important. Not to panic. Keep in touch with the Indian embassy and the missions around, because they have already issued detailed guidelines as well as the helpline numbers. And they should, all the Indians living in these countries should register themselves, so that if there is any development, the embassy is able to help them and guide them immediately. I think that is more important than leaving the country and coming back to India. At this moment, I don't think this is required. Thank you.
Ambassador, your perspectives, because I do want to understand from you. We're speaking about Indians at large, but your perspective, sir, in your assessment, how are you seeing things evolving as far as the war is concerned? What do you see coming in that context?
Well, when you see this trajectory of last 8-9 days, when the ceasefire has been virtually over, but what I see, this is very controlled escalation by the both sides, which is a positive sign. But of course, given the situation, nobody knows, what can go wrong. But that, for me, it is a silver lining. Secondly, if you see the statement being issued by the both sides, they are talking about still diplomacy that is not closed. So for me, because they are also saying that, they were receiving proposals from the mediators who are, looking for the diplomatic solution. So the diplomacy, unlike the beginning, in the 28th February, when the beginning, or 1.5 months, there was no talk of diplomacy. Now it is a controlled aggression as well as talk of diplomacy. So still, I think there is a scope for diplomacy, though of course the challenge is that both of them want to control the Strait of Hormuz, which was not in the equation. Now suddenly, after this fight or the war after 28th February, Strait of Hormuz has become the most important issue, and both sides want to have a control over it. So that is the issue going on. But at this moment, I see it is a control, which is a positive sign. I'm repeating myself here because that is a very important aspect, that both sides do not want to over-escalate the fight which is going on. So it's a positive, and if this situation continues like that, so I think there is still hope. There is a hope that diplomacy will succeed. Thank you.
Right, absolutely. With that, I'd like to thank you for joining us on NewsX, sharing your perspectives with us. On that note, we slip into a very short break. Thanks for watching.